Okay, let's jump right into this deep dive on the 7 habits of highly effective teens. This book, well, it makes a big promise right up front
It does. It claims to offer you a solid roadmap, something to help build a successful future.
and give real insight into, being powerfully successful in your own life.
Exactly. And it starts by laying some groundwork first, looking at these core ideas, habits, paradigms, and principles, before you even get to the 7 habits themselves.
Right. So think of this as us pulling out the most important nuggets from the book, really focusing on what you can take away.
Sounds good. So where do we begin? The book starts with those basics. Habits.
Habits. Okay, so what are we talking about here? According to the book,
Well, they're basically things we do repeatedly. A lot of the time, it's like autopilot. We don't even think about it.
yeah, like brushing your teeth or maybe scrolling your phone first thing in the morning.
Precisely. And the book makes this really key distinction. Some habits are, well, recipes for disaster, while others are genuinely good for you.
It gives clear examples, good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Things like exercising regularly, planning ahead, showing respect.
Mm-hmm. And the bad ones. Thinking negatively all the time, feeling inferior, blaming others for everything.
Yeah, the book says those can make life really stink at times.
Yeah.
You can see how that would happen.
Definitely. So, moving on from what we do, the habits, to how we see, that's where paradigms come in.
Paradigms and principles. The book has that catchy phrase, what you see is what you get. So what exactly is a paradigm here?
It's your viewpoint, your frame of reference, your belief system, basically the way you see something. The book uses perceptions too.
Gotcha. And the problem is,
Yeah.
our paradigms can be, like, totally wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
Way off the mark, I think the book says.
Absolutely. And if your paradigm, your lens is distorted, it really limits you. The book gives those, historical examples.
Right, like Ptolemy thinking the Earth was the center of everything.
Exactly. Or that movie studio head, Zanuck, back in the 40s, who thought television was just a fad. Said people wouldn't stare at a plywood box every night.
Huh? Yeah, it seems funny now, but it shows how powerful those limiting beliefs can be. So the book focuses on 3 main types of paradigms that affect us personally.
First one is paradigms of self. Basically, how you see yourself. Is your self view positive or negative? Does it hold you back?
The book tells that story about Linda, right?
Right.
The girl who didn't think she was pageant material.
Yeah, until her friend Rebecca pushed her, saw something Linda didn't see in herself. It highlights how, sometimes we need others to help us see our own potential.
Which is great if you have that person. But the book also says you can work on it yourself, right? Clean your glasses, it calls it.
Mm-hmm. Spending time with people who believe in you is one way, like the author mentions his mom did for him. But you can also go solo, actively work on building that positive self-image from the inside out.
Okay, so self-paradigms. What's next?
Paradigms of others, how you see other people. And this is where we can really jump to conclusions based on, like, incomplete information.
The story about Becky and Kim illustrates that, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Kim was acting moody, so they just kind of dropped her.
Right. But they had no idea what was going on at home, that she needed help. Once Becky understood the whole picture, her paradigm shifted completely.
Or that classic cookie example, thinking the other guy is stealing your cookies.
Only to realize you were eating his all along and he was just being nice about it. Yeah.
It really drives home the book's point. Be careful about judging or labeling. You probably don't see the full story.
So true. Then the third type is paradigms of life, or what the book calls your life center. What's the main driving force in your life? What really matters most?
And it lists a bunch of common centers for teens, things like friends, stuff, relationships, school, parents.
Sports, heroes, even enemies or work. And the key insight is why making any one of these your absolute center can, well, mess you up.
Right. Friends change. Stuff doesn't last. If your whole world revolves around a boyfriend or
Your
girlfriend.
happiness totally depends on them. That's shaky ground. Or being parent-centered, always trying to please them, like the girl who got good grades but still felt like a disappointment.
Yeah, that's tough. The author even shares how his wife, wisely, didn't make him her center when they were dating. It shows strength in having your own core.
And being purely self-centered,
Huh.
well, that just isolates you. You're so wrapped up in your own world. The,
Yeah.
the book isn't saying these things aren't important parts of life.
Just that they shouldn't be the only thing, the absolute center.
Exactly. Which leads to the alternative the book presents, being principle-centered.
Principles like honesty, service, respect, love, integrity, things like that.
Yes. The idea is that principles are universal truths. They don't fail. They give you a really stable, immovable, unshakable foundation.
That Cecil B. DeMille quote really hits hard here. It is impossible for us to break the law. We can only break ourselves against the law. It's like that with principles. Ignoring them hurts you.
hmm And the interesting thing is, the book argues that living by principles actually helps you improve in those other areas. Better friendships, more integrity in school or work.
Okay, so that lays the foundation really well. Habits, paradigms, principles. Now we get into the actual habits, starting with the private victory. This is about mastering yourself first.
And it kicks off with something the book calls the personal bank account, or PBA, thinking about the man in the mirror.
Right, like a bank account for your self-esteem, you make deposits, you make withdrawals. It affects how you feel about yourself, your confidence.
And the book outlines 6 main ways to make deposits into this PBA.
Let's see. Keep promises to yourself. Do small acts of kindness. Be gentle with yourself.
Be honest, renew yourself, like recharge, and tap into your talents.
And these aren't huge, dramatic things necessarily. Keeping a promise might just be getting up on time, like you said.
Exactly. Or being gentle could mean catching that negative self-talk. Honesty is about being real, authentic.
Renewing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Finding that place or activity where you can just recharge, like Theodore's basement in the story.
Yeah.
Your sanctuary.
Mm-hmm. And tapping into talents, the book really stresses, this isn't just about being good at sports or music. It could be anything. Being organized, being a good listener, creativity.
Bryce's story, finding a new talent after losing baseball, that really shows how broad talents can be. And it all ties back to that idea of self-worth, the Whitney Costin quote.
Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. You need that internal foundation. It makes sense.
It really does. And that leads perfectly into habit 1. Be proactive. The idea here is I am the force.
This is fundamental. It's about taking responsibility for your life versus blaming everything else, circumstances, people, luck. Proactive versus reactive.
Reactive people, the book says, are like a can of soda. Shake them up and they fizz and explode. Proactive people are more like water.
Right. Things might disturb the surface, but they settle down, they choose their response, they stay in control.
The author talks about his dad challenging him on this as a teen, not letting him blame others even when it felt justified. She made me mad. No, son, you chose to get mad.
Yeah, that push towards taking ownership. The book gives simple examples. Reactive people let bad weather ruin their mood. Proactive people grab an umbrella.
Reactive people get upset if friends gossip. Proactive people decide how to handle it constructively.
That grocery store story about the broccoli price error, it's small, but it shows that moment of choice. He could have gotten annoyed, blamed the customer.
But he chose to be proactive, take responsibility, fix it.
And the BYU football story, that's a big one. Expecting to be a star, ending up on the bench. That's got to be tough. It felt like failure.
But choosing to keep a proactive attitude, contribute however he could, even when it was hard, that shows real strength of character. Choosing your response.
The book even talks about rising above abuse, sharing stories like Heather's and Shane's, showing that even when terrible things happen to you, you can still choose how you respond and move forward, become a change agent.
That autobiography in 5 short chapters poem captures it so well, going from falling in the same hole over and over, blaming the hole,
to finally recognizing it, taking responsibility is my fault, and then choosing a different path entirely. I walk down a different street.
Being proactive also means having that can-do spirit. Like George Bernard Shaw said, don't just blame circumstances, make them.
Or find them, like Denise wanting that library job. It wasn't open, so she volunteered, showed her value.
And then she was the obvious choice. When a spot did open up, she made it happen.
It's about using your willpower, that internal control, to choose your actions instead of just reacting. The author contrasts this with his dog, Woof, who just has to chase the paper boy.
Right. You're not Woof. You get to decide. You're in charge of you.
Okay, so if habit 1 is knowing you're the driver, habit 2 is figuring out where you're going. Begin with the end in mind. Control your own destiny or someone else will.
This one's about vision, right? Getting a clear picture of where you want to end up, defining your values, setting goals based on that, like having the puzzle box cover before you start.
Exactly. And the book suggests that great discovery exercise to help with this. Imagine your funeral or looking back in 20 years. What do you want to be remembered for?
Yeah, that sounds intense, but it probably cuts through the day-to-day noise and gets you thinking about what really matters deep down.
Jim's story shows how visualization helped him see what needed to change now to get to the future he wanted, and that high school senior realizing she could actually plan her life, not just drift.
This end in mind affects everything, even friendships. The book talks about choosing friends who align with where you want to go.
That story about the guy realizing the 24 Club wasn't leading anywhere good, making the tough choice to pull away from Jack and find new friends. It illustrates that point powerfully. It might be hard, but necessary.
And if you don't define your own destiny, that Jack Welch quote nails it. Someone else will. Your friends, parents, the media, they'll set your direction if you don't.
So the practical step is creating a personal mission statement. The book suggests ways like collecting meaningful quotes or just doing a brain dump. Get it down on paper.
Okay, so habit 1, you're the driver. Habit 2, know your destination. What's habit 3?
Habit 3 is put first things first. This is the will and won't power habit. It's about actually doing what matters most based on habit 2.
So willpower to say yes to the important stuff and won't power to say no to the less important things, distractions, peer pressure. It connects habits 1 and 2 into action.
Right. And a key tool here is the time quadrant model, sorting things by urgent versus important.
Quadrant 1 is the procrastinator. Urgent and important. Crisis mode. Last-minute cramming. Dealing with problems you ignored.
Yeah, lots of stress. Some Q1 is unavoidable, but living there isn't sustainable.
Quadrant 2 is the prioritizer. Important, but not urgent. This is where the book says you want to be. Planning, preparing, relationship building, relaxation, exercise.
This is the quadrant of excellence and fulfillment, taking care of things before they become crises.
Quadrant 3 is the yes man. Urgent, but not important. This is stuff that feels urgent, but it's really important to someone else, not necessarily you. Interruptions, trying to please everyone.
That Bill Cosby quote fits perfectly. Trying to please everyone is the key to failure. Q3 means you're reacting to others' agendas.
And quadrant 4 is the slacker. Not urgent, not important, just waste. Excessive TV, mindless scrolling, time wasters.
So the goal is to spend more time in Q2 planning and preventing, which shrinks Q1, and learning to say no to Q3 and Q4.
But habit 3 isn't just about managing time, is it? It's also about the internal stuff, overcoming fear and peer pressure.
Definitely. The book says that takes courage and guts. Like Edmund Hillary said, it's not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves.
Those doubts can be traitors, stopping you from even trying. The author's dad's advice again, never let your fears make your decisions. You make them.
We see courage in history, Mandela, Susan B. Anthony, Churchill, and in everyday life, like the author singing despite being scared.
The point is about rising each time you fall. Worry less about failing, more about missing chances, because fear held you back.
And resisting peer pressure is a big part of this won't power. Saying no to things that don't align with your Q2 goals, even if it's unpopular, like the girl who lost friends but gained self-respect.
Sometimes, yeah, you might even need to change your environment, like Heather did. Though the book notes positive peer pressure is valuable.
And it all comes down to discipline. That common ingredient of success, research found. Successful people do things failures don't like to do. They're driven by the result, the purpose.
That takes discipline, which is exactly what putting first things first builds. Okay, that wraps up the private victory, self-mastery. Now for the public victory, interacting with others.
Right. And this starts with the relationship bank account, the RBA.
Like the BBA for yourself, but this is about the trust and confidence level in your relationships with other people. And the big idea, small things matter a lot.
Yeah, those quotes capture it perfectly. Mark Twain living 3 months on a compliment, a kind word warming 3 winter months. Small gestures have huge impact.
The book lists RBA deposits, similar to PBA. Keep promises, small acts of kindness, be loyal, listen.
Say you're sorry, set clear expectations. And withdrawals happen too, obviously. Broken promises, gossip, not listening.
The author's car crash story. A big withdrawal from breaking a promise to his dad, but then Rennan's brother making that $1,000 deposit with just a compliment.
Wow. Or the girl writing kind notes, seeing the ripple effect. And that amazing homecoming story at Joliet High, a massive group deposit of kindness.
Loyalty is huge too. Annie's story shows how gossip, being disloyal, just destroyed trust.
And apologizing sincerely, like the girl who snapped at her mom, can quickly start repairing damage. Setting clear expectations also builds trust, being upfront.
The challenge here is to actively work on a strained relationship, making consistent small deposits. Patience is key.
And building that trust, that RBA, paves the way for habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Basically, listen or you'll be clueless.
2 parts here. First, really listen to understand the other person. Then share your side so they understand you. You got to do the first part first.
Makes sense. You can't influence someone if they don't feel heard. But the book points out we're often terrible listeners. It lists 5 poor listening styles.
Let's see. Spacing out, just not there.
Yeah.
Pretend. Listening, nodding along but not hearing. Selective listening, only catching parts.
Word listening, hearing the words but missing the feeling behind them. And self-centered listening, always bringing it back to yourself, playing one-upmanship.
Oh yeah, like the brother who jumps in with advice instead of just listening to the problem.
Right, so the book contrasts that with genuine listening. Remember that quote, "Don't talk or do, just hear me."
So how do you do that? The book gives 3 keys.
1. Listen with your eyes, heart, and ears. Total focus, paying attention to body language and tone too. 2. Stand in their shoes. Really try to see it from their perspective, like the tinted glasses analogy.
Or the author finally understanding his mom's struggles when he saw things from her point of view.
hmm And 3, practice mirroring. Not just parroting words, but reflecting back the meaning in your own words. So what I'm hearing is you feel frustrated because that dad-son example about the car shows how powerful this is.
The book also specifically mentions listening to parents this way, seeing them as people, not just roles. Apparently, it can even help you get your way more often because they feel understood and trust you more.
Interesting angle. Then, after they feel understood, you move to the second part. Seek to be understood, expressing your own feelings respectfully.
Like in the sibling car example, first listen, then share your side, your my way, and being open to feedback is part of this too.
Exactly. Which leads naturally into habit 6, synergize. It's not your way or my way, but a better way.
Synergy. That's teamwork, right? Creating something together that's better than what anyone could do alone, like geese flying in V formation.
Precisely. The book contrasts what synergy is celebrating: differences, teamwork, open-mindedness, finding new ways with what it isn't.
It's not just tolerating differences or working independently or thinking you're always right or even just compromise.
Right. That's a key distinction. Compromise is 1 plus 1, 1.5. Everyone loses something. Synergy is 1 plus 1 equals 3 or more. You create something new and better.
To get there, you have to appreciate that people are different, smart in different ways. The book talks about different learning style.
Yeah. Interpersonal, logical, spatial, all sorts. The point is, different isn't wrong, it's just different. And those differences are strengths when combined.
But celebrating diversity can be tough. We might accept some differences, but judge others based on, like, clothes or background. The book reminds us we are all a minority of one. Everyone's unique.
Prejudice is a huge barrier to synergy. The book shows the ignorance cycle. Ignorance leads to cliques prejudice, then poor communication, then no synergy. Natasha's story about racism, the stick of wood poem, they show the damage.
But positive examples exist too, like Bill Sanders sticking up for diversity.
And the book offers a practical roadmap, the Getting to Synergy Action Plan.
Step 1. Define the problem together. Step 2. Understand their view, habit 5. Step 3. Share your view, habit 5. Step 4. Brainstorm new solutions. Step 5. Find the best synergistic solution.
The car conflict example between the siblings walks through applying this step by step, moving beyond my way, your way to a highway.
Okay, so that covers the private and public victories. Habits 1 through 6. What's left is the final habit that keeps it all going.
Habit 7, sharpen the saw. The tagline is perfect. It keeps you from wearing out.
This is about renewal, right? Taking time to recharge yourself regularly so you can actually do all the other stuff, like sharpening the saw instead of just hacking away with a dull blade.
Exactly. And it involves renewing yourself in 4 key areas: body, physical, brain, mental, heart, emotional, and soul, spiritual.
Body is exercise, healthy eating, sleep. Brain is reading, learning new things, education. Heart is relationships, service, laughter. Soul is connecting with your inner self, nature, spirituality, meditation.
And the crucial element is balance. Nothing overmuch, the book says. These 4 areas are interconnected, like tires on a car. Neglect one, and the whole ride gets bumpy.
So caring for your body. Besides exercise and good food, the book tackles body image issues, right? Saying magazine perfection isn't real.
And it gives strong warnings about addictions, alcohol, drugs, tobacco, cites the stats, the damage, offers the refusal skill as a tool to say no.
Caring for your brain emphasizes lifelong learning. That quote, if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Education makes your mind agile.
It encourages looking beyond high school, college, vocational training, mentioning earnings potential, finding your learning niche even outside school subjects.
But warns against letting sports or hobbies totally eclipse learning. Man, get a brain. That teammate quote, ultimately you gotta want to learn. That story of the boy reading despite abuse, finding it was like air to him. Powerful.
Caring for your heart circles back to the PBA and RBA deposits. Building others builds you. It also includes making wise choices about sex, framing it as involving the heart and emotions, not just the body, and mentioning potential consequences.
And it addresses suicidal thoughts with a message of hope. Hold on, it gets better. Shares a story of resilience, plus the importance of laughter. Hakuna Matata.
Finally, caring for your soul, your inner core, purpose, peace, finding ways to feed that meditation, service, nature, journaling, music, prayer, whatever resonates. Pearl S. Buck's quote about inner springs.
It also warns against things that dull the soul, like pornography. Using that boiling frog analogy, gradual numbing.
The main takeaway for Habit 7 is that renewal isn't optional, it's essential. You don't have time not to sharpen the saw. And sometimes one activity can renew multiple areas, like Melanie's horseback riding.
Wow, that's quite a journey through the whole framework, from habits and paradigms.
Through the private victory, public victory, and finally renewal. It's a comprehensive roadmap.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it might feel like, whoa, that's a lot to take on, but the book itself acknowledges that.
Right. It says, don't get overwhelmed. Just pick 2 or 3 things to work on. Start small, build momentum.
That seems like manageable advice, a good place to start applying these ideas.
Definitely.
So to wrap this up, let's leave you with that quote from Bob Moawad that the book uses. It's quite visual.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
You can't make footprints in the sands of time by sitting on your butt. And who wants to leave butt prints in the sands of time?
Yeah, that certainly makes you think. Butt prints or footprints?
Exactly. So maybe the question to ponder is, what kind of footprints do you want to leave in your own life, for others? How could using some of these habits, these principles, help you make the mark you want to make?
A great question to consider as you move forward. It's about proactive choices, setting direction, and building that character, those relationships, day by day.